Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. Stay calm. Calm down.
I finally got to ride my first RMC. Finally. Obviously, this is a company that's been the golden glory of the coaster community for years now. Everybody talks about them, everybody loves their coasters, and I finally got to experience my first one, and now I officially know how these things feel. Today, we're reviewing Untamed at Walibi Holland, which is a coaster I've anticipated for years, heard so many things about, and I'm so thrilled I've finally been able to ride this insane piece of art. Untamed obviously used to be Robin Hood. Robin Hood opened back in 2000 and closed in 2018, and it was a Vekoma wooden roller coaster. RMC is notorious for doing their classic Iron Horse treatment, where they take old wooden roller coasters and convert it into steel hybrid coasters with completely new layout ideas. Untamed has reimagined Robin Hood, and it is now a true Airtime machine, which is also its place in the park. While yes, they do have Goliath, Goliath also has a lot of other values, where Untamed is solely focused on whip and airtime, delivered in several crazy ways. This coaster has its reputation of being a mini steel vengeance. A lot of people say it's in the better half of RMCs, and I've even heard several people say it's one of the absolute best RMCs as well. And obviously it is, by default, one of Europe's best coasters, alongside other coasters such as Sadra, Conda, Expedition G-Force, and Helix, and many others. I wrote this in July of 2022, and let's get right into the review with the technical category.
It's bigger! It's better!
As mentioned, Untamed is made by Rocky Mountain Construction, aka RMC, and it is an IBox Hybrid roller coaster, utilizing the IBox track as well as being a hybrid. It's a steel coaster on a wooden structure, which overall follows Robin Hood's layout previously, but of course with many new ideas on the layout itself. It was the second ever RMC in Europe after Wildfire at Kolmården, and it was the first of its model in Europe, whereas Zadra is the only other one we've received since then. It's got the new gen RMC trains. They have comfortable lap bars, but really tight shin guards that do feel restrictive before and after the ride, but I actually didn't think or really care about them doing the ride itself.
I don't give a shit!
Yes, the shin guards kind of suck, but when you're rolling, you kind of forget they're even there. They do not prevent the airtime at all, and neither does the lap bar. Even when you're stapled, you can still get up from your seat. It's kind of magical. The trains consist of 12 rows with 24 seats in total, and of course the ride opened in 2019, the year after Robin Hood closed. It's 119.8 feet tall, which is almost 15 feet taller than Robin Hood. It's 3,559.7 feet long, which is less than 200 feet longer than Robin Hood, and it goes 57.2 miles an hour, which is almost 8 miles an hour faster than Robin Hood. That's the most impressive of those stats, or at least the one that has the biggest difference from its predecessor. Or at least regarding those stats, because obviously the biggest difference when it comes to stats is probably the fact that this has 5 inversions, the most inversions on any RMC. Now some people say it has 4 inversions because of the overbanked inversion, but to me that 100% felt like an inversion, so this thing definitely has 5 to me. It's a minute and 2 seconds long in prime ride time, which is excluding the lift hill and the brake run, and I gotta say, that is actually really good for a coaster this intense. It feels like a long ride, and it sure is on paper.
I'm gonna brown!
Untamed's area overall is immersive, and it has a fantastic looking facade. The great sign out front mixed with a step-up underflip behind it looks epic, along with a lift on the right side. It has a great presentation when you walk up to it, and a great first impression. The color itself is this very orangey brown, which usually would be ugly on many steel coasters, but it actually fits so well with the wooden structure, as well as the metallic beams that split up the track and the support structure. The ride actually looks fantastic, and it looks even better in person. And besides, wooden structures always look good.
So beautiful.
The trains are exceptionally cool as well. I absolutely adore these trains. They're some of my favorite trains out there at all of any I've seen. They're very chromy and almost like mirrors, and they look incredibly cool. The front car is amazing. It really does look like a huge monster moth of some sort. Another thing is that it's of course part of the wilderness area. That also means that there are a lot of plants all around, which go very well together with the rest of the coaster regarding looks. The plants and the brown colors mixed together incredibly really well, and overall, this ride just has fantastic appearances.
Welcome to the salty spittoon. How tough are you?
Now, how does this thing actually ride? Well, you start out with a funky RMC pre-lift. Not the longest or the craziest, but still really cool. After a short drop, you have the 45 degrees outward bank turn, which kind of stalls in the middle and then continues to turn. This obviously gives great sideways hang time that is incredibly fun. Nothing extreme, nothing other than just wonky, but to be honest, I really dig this section. It's pretty fun. When you go up the chain lift hill, you're gonna notice something at the top of it. It speeds up. It has a pretty slow speed for most of the lift hill, but as soon as it reaches the top, it speeds up to make sure to give you that full speed for the rest of the layout, and yes, that goes for a warm summer day as well. The drop itself is pretty similar to Phoenix, and spoiler alert, that's actually not the only comparison I'm gonna make to Phoenix in this video. The drop gives a great quick floater pop in the front that is super fun and actually really good overall, but of course in the rear, it's gonna give a great sustained ejector moment that is super fun and very strong as well for a drop. The only difference between this drop and Phoenix drop is the fact that Phoenix drop feels slightly more sustained, but otherwise they're super similar. That is followed by a small bunny hill, and a lot of people say this bunny hill is just okay or just floater, but I think this gives good full ejector bordering towards weak ejector airtime. Then you go into one of, if not my favorite inversion element on any ride I've been on. This is a 270 degree double inverting stall, and this thing is fucking nuts. While it isn't extreme in its forces, it's so fun and so long. You start by twisting toward the left, which is going to give you a great whip up front and give you a strong floater pop. And when I say pop, it's really not a pop because it's sustained throughout the entire element. And that isn't only because of the twist, but also because the middle part where it stalls is kind of shaped like a wave turn. It is slightly outer bank, so it's actually like an upwards barrel roll mixed with a wave turn followed by a barrel roll down drop. It's a super complicated element, but it works so incredibly well. So you're gonna get that good whip, then a sustained floater moment, and then you're gonna go through the inversion downward again. If you're in the front, you're just gonna stay out of your seat, but if you're in the back, that is where the whip and the airtime will get strongest. Then you reach the twisted double up, and this is where the madness truly begins. Up until now, you've had some really cool and very good elements, but this is where the true ejector nightmare, I was about to say, this is fucking beautiful, begins. This twisted double up is your first taste of insanely strong ejector airtime. Before riding this coaster, I thought I had experienced very strong airtime on other coasters such as Piraten. And yeah, that is strong ejector, but Untamed's ejector is completely of another world. It is insanely strong. There's no transition from you being in your seat until you're up into the lap bar. You're there instantly and you hit it hard. I rode this coaster 6 times and I still had bruises on my thighs 5 to 6 days later.
My thighs hurt. My thighs actually are in pain now
because of how strong that airtime is. It is insanely violent. And getting back into the actual layout, the first part of the double up sends you flying up into the lap bar, and so does the second part, except the second part also has very strong whip toward the right. In the front row, the whip is strongest. You're gonna get very violently whipped toward the right, and in the back, it's still great whip. Now, something funny I noticed at the bottom of this valley is that it's slightly overbanked. Now, valleys overbanked on a modern coaster is kind of weird, but it was just slightly banked more to the point where you might have the smallest amount of lateral hang time toward your left. It is so minor, and I didn't notice it before on my 5th or 6th ride, but it's pretty funny, and you can kind of see it that RMC's shaping is just super unique, let's say it like that. Then comes the first of 2 camelbacks. Now, this camelback is of course mind-blowingly strong. It is just as strong airtime as before, except it is way more sustained. In the front row, you're immediately popped up as far as you're gonna get, and you're sustained out of your seat from the entire element. In the back row, the airtime is a little more gradual. You're still gonna get strong airtime in the beginning of the element, and then it just gets slightly stronger through to the end of the element. But by the end of the element in the back, it is just as strong as it is in the front throughout the entire element. So this is definitely a front row element for me, and the same thing goes for the following element, which is an outer bank camelback. The airtime here is just as strong as the previous camelback, except you also get a fantastic whip in and out of it. Of course, going into it is stronger whip in the front, going out of it is stronger in the back. After that is the third inversion with the step up underflip, which is of course a 270-degree 0G roll followed by a 180-degree turn. If you sit in the front row, the inversion itself is going to give a very powerful whip, which also grants great airtime. And while in the back the whip definitely isn't as strong, it's still very good floater airtime and definitely some decent whip you're going to get back there. In the turn itself in the element is actually the one point of the ride where you get some positive forces that are worth talking about. Mind that they're not strong in any way, but they're very sustained and of course very noticeable as well. Then comes the 90-degree outer banged thing.
What is this?
I'm not sure if this is a wave turn or just an outer bang camelback bunny hill thing. Nonetheless, it is super fun. In the front, you're gonna get a very powerful whip going into it, while you also get great ejector airtime. And in the back, you're still gonna get great ejector airtime and an even more insane whip than you get in the front, but this time going out of it when you go downward. You flip from 90 degrees to 0 degrees so insanely fast in the back, and it's insanely fun. After this is the double up down. Basically a double up mixed with a double down, and this is just as strong ejector airtime as we've previously talked about, except there are 3 moments so close back to back it feels insane. It also does turn slightly to the left. I guess you feel a little bit of laterals, but you don't really think about them because of how strong the airtime is. That's what you think about. Nonetheless, this entire pyramid shaped element is freaking insane. After this is the overbanked inversion. Now this is what some people say is not an inversion, but it definitely is to me. I believe it's 140 degrees banked, which is more than 135, which to me is what makes it an inversion in most cases. And it definitely feels like an inversion. You get an amazing whip towards the right side when you go into the element, then you get a brief moment of hang time. Yes, there is time enough for hang time. And then you get a strong whip toward the left again when you get out of the element. It's a great double whip element with some hang time in between, and is honestly one of my favorite inversions I've tried. After this is a small overbank. This is probably the weakest moment of the ride, but nonetheless, you don't care. I had to think about it to realize, oh yeah, I guess it actually is the weakest moment of the ride, because it goes so fast that you barely even think about the fact that you went through the element. It does not break out the rest of the layout at all. And here comes the Steel Vengeance-like ending with a bunch of small airtime hills that all provide mind-blowingly strong airtime. First, you have 2 bunny hills where the first one is slightly more sustained and the second one is slightly stronger, but the differences between these two are so minimal it doesn't really matter. They're both super aggressive ejector airtime moments. Then you have an outer banked bunny hill, which is again a very strong ejector airtime moment where you also get some whip toward both the right side and the left side. And then after this is probably the smallest bunny hill on the ride. Guys, this little piece of fucking devil shit here is the most insane airtime moment I've ever felt on any ride. This little rascal here made me feel like I was about to get my legs amputated. While it is a super short little pop of airtime, the ejector is unfathomably strong. If I were to guess that there's any moment on any ride that reaches over -2Gs close to -3, I'm gonna say this bunny hill. It's definitely not what it is, I'm guessing, but it feels like it, okay? It's insane, and it feels illegal. After the small bunny hill, there is a very small underbank turn, no laterals, but who cares? And then is the final inversion, the hardline roll, which is very sustained and very, very hang timey. You obviously start by getting some great hang time on your side, then upside down, then on your side again. And it is easily one of, if not my favorite, inversion for hang time. The fact that it's so close to the ground as well makes it even better, and the lap bar as well, of course. I love this inversion. Finally, you have a mini drop, which is another moment of really great ejector airtime, and then finally the ascent into the final brake run, which is also ejector airtime, not quite as strong as the rest of the layout, but it's definitely still very good. And that is the layout of Untamed. Wow, that was a journey. This ride is insane. It's fucking, oh my god.
Full speed ahead.
So the pacing of Untamed is flawless. There's no nitpick here, not a single moment where it doesn't feel lightning fast. Even the one slower element, which is the double stall, doesn't feel slow, and it definitely doesn't interrupt the pacing at all. It rockets through the entire layout, and yet it still warms up throughout the day.
What does warm mean?
The first ride of the day actually kind of made me fear for whether or not it was going to warm up, and oh boy, it did. It definitely warms up. Not by a long shot, but you can definitely feel it, and it gets stupidly fast.
This is pure glass.
Along with Phoenix, this is the smoothest coaster I've ever ridden. It is physically impossible to make Untamed any smoother than it already is.
Why isn't it possible? It's just not. Why not, you stupid bastard?
And I'm guessing it might be because of the track type and the fact that it's so new. You can definitely feel you're on a different type of track than what you're used to on a steel coaster. This sounds weird, but it just feels like there's less friction on this track type, and that just makes it feel faster. Smoothness is perfect.
Your garden is overgrown and your cucumbers are soft!
Untamed has a really cool theme. It is of course placed in the wilderness section of the park, and it is themed to kind of this bug, which also fits with the name Untamed. It's like this monster insect moth thing that, you know, is not tameable. The theme is basically that this thing you're in is on a rampage, which obviously is exactly what the ride feels like. And it is a super cool theme. Overall, the coaster has a very light theming. There's not a ton of things, but honestly, it's still super satisfying and immersive as well. The sign in the front, of course, looks really good. So cool, such a good design, and it feels epic. It's huge. The Robin Hood train in the queue line is also such a great detail that also adds to the theme and pays homage to Robin Hood. The station has some theming here and there, some sort of retro garden house thing. There are details here and there that I just really like, and of course there is the dispatch music, which I did not know about before going, and it is very epic. While it's not a big show like on Caravan, for example, the dispatch music here is definitely enough to get you hyped for the ride, and I absolutely love it. Other things to note is that there's also a waterfall that you can actually put your hand into and splash your friends and be a cunt to them when you're waiting in line, so that's pretty fun. And also, my favorite piece of theming I've ever seen on any ride is also on this ride with the broken phone glass booth thing. I guess it's like people who drop their phones and then you can look at the broken phones. I love this. This was really funny.
I love you, Daddy!
Overall, Untamed feels illegal. Just because of how insane it is, and I only love it the more for it. When we were on the brake run at the end of the day, when it's warmed up, I kept thinking, how can they do this to their guests? How can they allow themselves to torture their guests' thighs like this? And I only love it more for that, because yes, your thighs are gonna hurt the more you ride this, but I love it. It's my favorite pain. I can't remember that I've ever been this blown away by a ride's layout and forces, because I haven't. All airtime is extreme, all the inversions are outstanding, and it still offers more than that. It still isn't even missing theming and epicness for the rest of the overall experience, and I seriously can't find a single flaw with this. Sure, it's not mind-blowing the theme like Terran, for example, and it focuses a lot on a single force with whip accompanying it as well, but who fucking cares? This thing is amazing! What am I gonna rate Untamed? Obviously, it's gonna get a 10 plus out of 10. This is the highest score I can get. I could not justify giving it anything less than this. It's one of my favorite attractions of all time, easily, and while I don't expect most other RMCs to be this intense, it still baffles me to think that there are so many coasters by this company at this point, and I can't wait to ride more. Wildfire and Zadra are the next I'm riding with like a 95% certainty. Obviously, I really want to know what you guys think about this insane piece of work, because Untamed is just unlike anything else I've ever done, and I really want to know in the comments what you guys think about this. Even if you haven't ridden it, let me know what you think beforehand, before riding an RMC, or just this one in particular, because I was in that very same boat very recently. This is going to be the first of many future reviews of my July 2022 trips. Next one is going to be Ride to Happiness, and then Conda, and this is going to be so fun. So otherwise, guys, thank you so much for watching. This was a long one. Oh boy. I'm going to see you boys later, and bye!